Ooh, it's gonna be a spicy one.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those videos where we're gonna have to kind of tread lightly. Today we're talking about how to travel with someone else.
Like me.
Like Sarah here.
How to deal with Sarah.
How to deal with Sarah while traveling.
If you haven't seen our faces before, we're Eric and Sarah. We're a married couple that's been traveling for the last year and a half, full time. So we spend a lot of time
Literally
together.
24/7.
Literally 24/7.
We are together while traveling.
We work together, we travel together, we eat together, we literally do everything together. So
Together.
So
our big goal with this is to not just be talking about married couples. Not everybody's married, not everybody's in a couple, but you should be able to use these tips to travel with someone else, whether it's just a friend, whether it's just someone that you've met. These tips should be helpful, I hope.
Hopefully. Let's get into it. Tip number 1, this is probably the biggest thing for me, is to always have adequate food and sleep. I honestly think probably 90% of the time when we're bickering, especially on travel days, but just like we're bickering about something, we often pause and it's just like, have you eaten today? Yeah. Have you eaten recently? Are you tired? Those are always the number 1 and 2 things that are the source of a lot of our issues. Yeah. Because when you're tired, you're just a lot more impatient, you're able to be a lot more snappy, and me especially, you too actually.
No.
We both get so hangry that often you're just like, oh, I'm frustrated about something else. And it's like, what I'm really frustrated about is that I'm hungry. So just grab some food on the street, get a little extra sleep, and just be really patient with each other.
Our next tip is, in my opinion, probably the most important one, and that's communication. You need to be able to work together. And a big part of that is just being able to talk and figure out what's going on. It might seem obvious, but you just need to, talk. Just come up with what types of things are going on. Like, what are you doing? What is that other person doing? And also be okay with like the fact that that other person might not communicate the same way as you.
Totally. And make sure to verbalize your expectations of like places you want to go, what you want your day to be like. Just over communicate all of your expectations of the other person and of your travels, so that you don't end up being like, well, you didn't know that I wanted to do that. Yeah. And then it's like, well, I can't read your mind. Yeah. I don't know.
Exactly. And you'll just end up pissed off with that other person.
It's just overly communicating. Tip number 3 is to try to meet new people. It's great to spend a lot of time together, and we actually love it. I could spend every single day all day. No, but I do spend every day all day with you. But it is also good to just get some, new people to meet, Yeah. So book a tour, book a hostel where you can meet other people, do some sort of event or a class or something to be able to make new friends, because it's good to just mix it up and meet other people too, especially if you're traveling really long term. You don't want to spend like months and months only talking to one person.
You should be talking to other people anyways. Like, you need to get new perspectives. You're in a new country. You should be like figuring things out and meeting people from other countries, meeting people from the country that you're traveling in. It's just a good idea just to go and talk to people anyways. Yeah. But again, too, like if you're just talking to one person, it kind of sucks. Yeah, and we find that often with like groups of friends, you often see them at hotels just not talking to anyone else. They're just in this little clique. Yeah, and totally. I mean, couples do that too, but often with bigger groups, it's like, 4 people. It's like they're only talking to each other. They don't talk to anyone else. And I just feel like that's not a really healthy way to travel, because it's good to get to know other people and to, like you said, different perspectives. That's right. Our next tip is a pretty big one for me, which is alone time. Even though, like we said, we're together 24/7, it's nice to have, maybe just 1 hour to yourself every so often. Usually what I do is I get up before Sarah and I will just be alone for like an hour, just alone with my thoughts, alone, walk around on the street, even making us breakfast, and just like have my own time. Like I said, it's awesome to have someone with you all the time. Yeah. But and if you're like me and you could just be with someone all the time and you're super extroverted and don't want to be alone, make sure you let the other person have alone time. And it is still good for me to have alone time too. I never regret it when I just take some time to read or journal or just do something on my own. So just make sure to build in that time. It's really, really healthy. Tip number 5 is to share the research load. This is a big thing that we've realized, especially with the really big topics like where to go, maybe even things to do, and then Airbnbs or hostels, like where to stay. These things can be so overwhelming, especially when you're traveling for a long time, because it feels like you're always researching, like, okay, now where's the next place? Where are we gonna stay? Those 2 questions are always pretty overwhelming, and it's hard for one person to take that on.
Eric isn't a huge research guy, but you've come around to just like doing these two things together because it's so hard to do on your own. And otherwise I get really overwhelmed being like, I'm always planning the next thing. Yeah. And it's a lot for me to make all those big decisions on my own. So I would recommend sharing the big research load of planning where to go and where to stay together, or taking turns so that it's not one person getting burnt out with all the research. And
this is also kind of goes back to the communication thing, where if you find that you're the one doing all the research and the other person isn't pulling their own weight, you need to find a way to communicate that and effectively, but not like don't be a jerk about it. Just be like, hey, look, you want to help me out here? Yeah. You know? Yeah. So these are our 5 tips that we have for you for traveling with someone else, but obviously there's a lot of other tips that are really helpful. So please comment below if you have a recommendation. If you've traveled with someone, whether it's a spouse or a friend or a parent or just someone new you've met, let us know how that went and recommendations that you have for other travelers, because this is obviously based on our relationship and our travel experience, but it is very different for other people. So we'd love to hear what you recommend for traveling with someone else long term. And for the bonus tip, learn your natural roles. Everybody is different. Everybody has a different way of dealing with stress. Everybody has a different way of dealing with travel. It's just the way of life. We are different people, and that's normal. The biggest thing is to realize what your role is. So for me, like Sarah said, I'm not the biggest researcher. I don't like to be sitting and like pining over what to do tomorrow. I like to just go and do it. And that's just kind of where I kind of land. And so Sarah will do a lot of the research at night, and then as the day comes, I'll be the one trying to like actually communicate with people, get us to the next spot, while Sarah maybe takes a nap in the backseat. Yeah, that is true. I always fall asleep on taxi rides, so Eric's always the one talking to people. Yeah, that's right. But it's just good to have your own roles and to realize that you're functioning as a unit, especially if you're just 2 people traveling. It's okay that somebody else does all this stuff on one thing if you're doing something else, you know? Yeah. It's like you have to be a team, and then it makes it a lot less overwhelming. That's right. Teamwork makes the dream work. That's what I've heard. That's what I say. And now that you have all the tips you need to survive traveling with another person, another thing that we didn't mention is money, and we have a whole other video right here that talks about money, so go watch that and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more tips. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Like I should. Alright. Poked fun at you and then you didn't notice. What did you say? And then I was being with one person all the time sucks, and then I looked over at you. I just flew past it. You insulted me and I didn't even know. Hey, you love traveling with me. Nah. You do. Debatable. Admit it. Debatable. You love that you're stuck with me all the time. This isn't fun though. It is so fun. You love being smothered by me all the time. Thank you. Ow. Too much. You do love it. I do.